Hey, how you all doing? Welcome back. It's Josh from the Natural Workshop here. So today's video is about how to finish an MDF Workbench top. Okay, cool. So today we are looking at different types of finishes for an MDF Workbench top. Now the last video I did was obviously last week, and that was why I use MDF for a workbench top, why I think it's a good idea, and why I would recommend it to people. I had a bunch of comments on there asking me what type of finish that I would recommend. Now I personally, I just use this, which is like a machine or a paste wax, or you can use like a furniture wax, that sort of thing. But I thought the best thing to do would be to maybe do some tests, get some samples, run everything through, and yeah, see what we think. So should we do it then? Real simple. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a little bit of an experiment. I've got 8 finishes here for us to try. I have 8 pieces of 18mm MDF, Medite MDF. They're all cut to 6" by 4", so 150mm by 100mm. What we're going to do is we're going to apply each individual finish. Each one's going to get 2 coats. They'll be applied to the manufacturer's instructions. So if it says I need to sand after the first coat, we'll sand after the first coat. The only thing that's maybe outside the manufacturer's instructions is that is the time frame, right? So we're going to run the experiment like you would do in a shed or a workshop, as in you're going to put the finish on, then you're going to go home, you're going to come back in the morning, have another look, and then crack on with it from there. Okay, cool. Okay, so these are the finishes that I have. We have a Colron teak oil, Treatex hard wax oil, really good stuff. I like this. The Johnson's Interior Wood Finish Clear Satin. This is a water-based poly. We have a quick drying MDF Clear Sealer, again water-based. We have Ronseal Yacht Varnish, which is an oil-based polyurethane. The Liberian, I don't know how you say it. The lubricating wax. This is the wax that I put on all of our machinery, our sleds, jigs, that sort of thing. Danish Oil, good old Danish Oil, and then the old school boiled linseed oil. So yeah, so we'll have to see how these play out and which one's the best. Which one do you think would be the best? Which one would you use, hey? Stick that in the comments and let me know, because I would be really interested to see what you think. I have to excuse the audio because I'm working off of a little mic. This is Rustin's Quick Dry and MDF Clear Sealer. It's a water-based product, really, really good. You'll notice as we put it onto the MDF, it gets sucked straight in. You see it changes colour. We're going to zoom through these. You all don't need to see how we put these on. It's fairly obvious. This is the Johnson's Indoor Water-Based Varnish. I really like this. We use this on a lot of projects when we're doing work for pubs and restaurants and stuff like that. Notice how it sits on top of the surface. Obviously soaked in a little bit, and then the white pigment sits on the top. So this is the good old boiled linseed oil. You can see it really soaks into the surface when we drop it on there. And I think I dropped this on 2 or 3 times before it became saturated, and then I left it to dry. See, we've got the Danish oil, good old Danish oil. Again, this is the Colron refined Danish oil. And watch how it sinks into the MDF. And this took 2 or 3 times, I think, for the MDF to really start to become saturated, or the surface of it to become saturated. Yeah, you can see we're still soaking it in. So this is the lubricating wax. I think in hindsight we probably could have warmed this up a little bit more, but you can see it soaking into the timber here. And I really do like using this stuff, it's great. So this is the teak oil, Colron refined teak oil. Again, I've used this a bunch of times, I really do like this. But you can see how much it's soaking into the MDF. I mean, it's really saturating it. Well, I mean, it's not saturating it, but it's really soaking in. And now we've got the poly oil. So this is like a yacht varnish, an oil-based varnish, satin finish on it. Okay, there's focus. And this stuff was great, but it didn't really sink into the timber, just sat on the surface. You can see when it finishes up what it's like. And last but not least, we have the Treatex hard wax saw. I genuinely love using this stuff. We use it on all of our high-end cabinets, a lot of our signs, our interior work and that we do for clients. It gives a really nice, beautiful, full finish, I guess. And what you won't see on this is after about 10 minutes, we come back and buff it off with a clean cloth just to get rid of all the excess finish on there. Here we are then, these are the finishes with the respective pieces of MDF, treated MDF in front of them. As I said before, we sanded with 120, we've done 2 coats according to the manufacturer's instructions. The only one that I needed to sand in between was the oil-based poly. You can see the colour differences on, which I guess is something you want to take into account if you're that way inclined with your workshop. You can see the oil-based finishes here, these here, and the oil-based poly. They finished quite dark. The water-based, the 2 water-based ones, they've finished quite light, almost lighter than the original MDF. And the paste wax, or the lubricating wax, machine wax, has finished pretty much near enough in line with what the original one looked like. So I guess the most important thing, what we really need to do, is start covering them in, dripping some water and some stain on there and seeing how we get on. Right, nice and simple. Just going to drip a few drops of water from this syringe here onto the, well, I've already started dripping, onto each boards. And then I'm going to get some stain, maybe some water-based and some oil-based stain, and again drip it on there. We'll leave it 10-15 minutes and then we'll come back and see what they're like. So I'm going to get the stain, drip them on, and we'll go from there. This stain is a Fiddy's Dark Oak. This is the darkest stain that we have. There you go, doesn't really have to be too pretty. And I'll get the oil-based stain. Okay, so this is the oil-based stain. Again, this is a dark oak. So we'll put a few drops on here. My syringe does not like it. I think the solvent in the stain is already starting to eat through the rubber seal. I'll stick this on the board. Now, personally, I thought we'd try this. I don't necessarily really use oil-based stain very much. I'm more of a water-based kind of stain guy, so you can see some of them are starting to mix, which is a bit of a shame, but we should still get a solid idea of which one's going to work better for us, I think. Cool, what we'll do, 15 minutes, come back and check it again. So I think I said 15 minutes, but in reality, we're not going to leave it 15 minutes, just because if you spill that amount of water or that amount of stain on your workbench, you're going to wipe it up fairly quickly. So we'll give it a couple more minutes, which will be about 5. And then I'm going to get a cloth, wipe it off, and we'll have a look to see how it is. It's interesting to see the oil-based stain, especially on the teak oil and on the boiled linseed oil, has soaked in. I wonder whether that's dissolved, the solvent in the stain has dissolved to the finish. One thing to note with the teak oil is I couldn't saturate the wood. So I kept pouring it on, and it just kept going and going and going. Whereas things like the hard wax oil, the MDF sealer for sure, they saturated the wood and I wiped them off and they were done. But yeah, like you can see, it's almost soaked all the way in now, and the boiled linseed oil has soaked all the way in. Not so much of an issue with the water-based. This one's really interesting to me, this MDF sealer, because this stuff is, I mean, it's not super cheap, but it's not really expensive, and you can, I think I got this tin for maybe £6, so. And you can coat 6 square meters with it at 2 coats, which is a fair bit. But yeah, really, that is really interesting. Do you know what? I didn't expect that at all. So I'm really pleased we ended up giving a go with the oil-based stain. Oh, and just so you know, this is the oil-based stain. This is the coal run wood dye, and the water-based is Fiddy's wood dye. We use a huge amount of this sort of stuff. I really like the light oak and the walnut that they do. Cool, give it a few more minutes, wipe it off and have a look. Right, so I think in total it's been maybe 6 or 7 minutes. What we're going to do, I've got some cotton cloths, a bit of t-shirt, go through, wipe all these off, see where we're at. Right, okay, so we're all cleaned up. That's, I've got to be honest, that's more of an interesting result than I thought was going to happen, to be fair with you. Yeah, blow my mind a little bit. Okay, so let's have a quick look. So this is the control. All right, this is untreated MDF. You can see the oil base really soaked into it, water base soaked into it, and the water. You can't really see, and I haven't got a macro lens to show you, but we've got a nice little bump, raised surface, a bit like a welt, I guess. Then we start over here. So we'll start at the T-coil. So oil base soaked in, water base soaked in, and the water soaked in as well. So T-coil is no good. Hard wax oil, the oil base didn't soak in, the water base didn't soak in, and the water didn't soak in. There's maybe a tiny bit of a, well, yeah, there's a tiny bit of a mark there you can see, but nothing else, nothing soaked in. There's no ridge, no bump, no welts or anything like that. We've got so that is a winner. We have the Johnson's Indoor Varnish. This is water based. So the oil base, we have a lump here where it's soaked in. The water didn't soak in and the water stain didn't soak in, so that was quite good. The MDF sealer, oil base soaked in, and the water didn't, and the water based stain didn't. The oil based poly, funnily enough, it's obvious. Yeah, look, it was eating away at the finish. I don't know if you can see that. So that oil based stain is eating away in that finish. Now that may be because it's not. Maybe it wasn't properly cured. The workshop is cold at the moment. When I went home last night, it was 15 degrees in here, and then when I came back in this morning, it was 3 degrees. So maybe it's not had a proper amount of time to cure. We did tick all the boxes with it, but maybe that's the issue. Or maybe the solvent in the stain has eaten through the varnish, which is probably what I would think. Yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think, because I personally think that the solvent's eaten away the top of the stain, but I could be wrong. And again, the water and the water-based stain, not a problem. The lubricating wax, the water-based stain soaked in, the oil-based stain soaked in, and the water soaked in. So I'm not going to use that anymore, I don't think. The Danish Oil turned out pretty darn well, to be fair with you. Neither of the stains soaked in. You can see the difference here on the side where it's over on the edge it's soaked in, but on the top it hasn't. The water didn't soak in. There's no welts or bumps. It's not peeling off. I'm really impressed with that. And the boiled linseed oil. Yeah, the water didn't soak in, but both stains did. So really interesting result. Not one that I would have picked out, to be fair with you. So which one do we think is the best? Probably, well, I think for a starter it's got to be the Danish Oil, because there's no marks, no nothing. And then the next one is the hard wax oil. If you've not heard of Treatex, I really recommend you have a look at them. They are an alternative to Osmo oil, and then it genuinely is my favourite. If you ever see any birch pie cabinets we make, or any furniture, signs, anything really, it always gets finished in Treatex. They're an amazing company. I've spoken to them a lot. They're really helpful, and yeah, I'm not sponsored or anything like that, but genuinely do love Treatex. So that was a close second. I think the only reason it came second is because of that small welt there, and again, that could be my bad application of it. Oh wow, look, the T-coils come out real funny now. But yeah, so I think number 1 is Danish Oil, number 2 is hard wax oil, and then number 3, I think it's probably have to be the water-based polyurethane, as long as you're not going to use any oil-based gear on there. Wow, wonder is that, I don't think that's eating away at my gloves. Maybe that's stain that's, I don't know, but yeah, so best one, Danish Oil, next one, hard wax oil, and the next one, water-based varnish. Cool, happy days, that's the result, and the result is good. What do you think to that then, eh? I'm pleasantly surprised, I guess. I knew that the machine wax wasn't the greatest, but it's cheap and we have it around, so I normally just chuck it on there. I guess, to be fair, when I'm waxing stuff with it, it's just a case of making things a little bit more slippy, making them especially with sleds and jigs and that sort of thing. The hard wax oil, I did have high hopes for that, and that did disappoint. I was really pleased with how that worked out. The Danish Oil, you know, somebody, I think in the previous video, a guy mentioned that, I forget your name, I do apologise if you're watching this. The guy mentioned that he used a couple of coats of Danish Oil and he said it was a really good finish. So I think if I was going to recommend one, that would be the one. Obviously, remember, when you're working with any oil-based finishes, make sure that you dispose of your rags correctly. Don't chuck them in a bin in the corner, because they can catch fire. But yeah, what do you think to that then? Do you think, did I do something wrong? Do you agree with the outcome? Do you think that maybe I overlooked something? If you do, please let me know. I'm genuinely interested. If you look at my other videos, people put comments up and I reply to all of them. It's the whole point of doing YouTube is to give a little bit back, because let's face it, right? I rely on YouTube for way too much stuff. It's an amazing resource, YouTube and Google. So yeah, so if you have any comments, if you would like me to try anything else, if you think I've overlooked something or missed something, screw the experiment up, please let me know. And by all means, you know, drop us in the comments. Do you think that? Did you think that the Danish Oil was going to win? Which one did you think was going to win? Man, I genuinely thought that this oil-based poly would probably be the best one. But then thinking about it, it's going to. Oh wow, yeah. Look. Huh. You see that? Let me show you. So it doesn't scratch off, scratches off, doesn't scratch off. That's. Huh. So that's just where the stain was, the oil-based stain. So obviously the solvent in the stain is eaten through the top of the poly. So you know, if you're a finishing guy, and please let me know if it should do that or not. Maybe I didn't let it cure. I think what I'll do is I'll let it sit on the side for a week and then maybe drop some stain on it just to see. But yeah, I can't believe that didn't really work at all. I thought the board linseed oil would work better, to be fair. And the teak, I didn't have much hype for the teak oil. When I kept putting it on, it just kept soaking in and soaking in and soaking in, so it wouldn't saturate. So I didn't really have much of a hope at all for that. Quite impressed with the water-based poly. I guess, you know, all things considered, really the biggest issue they have: do you use oil-based finishes or not? If you're using an oil-based stain, then you want to go for something like this. If you're just using water-based finishes, it doesn't really matter. Like especially like these and this. Yeah, that's blowing my mind a little bit. I know there's lots of and yeahs and stuff like that. It's only because I'm thinking, right? I didn't think that this was going to be the best, and it outshone all the others. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please let me know below what you think to it. You'll have an awesome day, and I shall catch you next time. All right? Take it easy.